I'm Hope Katz-Gibbs, creator of the Incandescent Radio Network and Incandescent TV, here doing our show about the amazing book, Always a Song, by amazing, gorgeous, fantastic Ellen Harper in Claremont, California, and the wonderful Sam Barry in Northern California. They are the co-authors of this book about Ellen's life. So I'm Hope Katz-Gibbs, and you are about to experience the cover story of the April issue of Be Incandescent Health and Wellness magazine, where these folks will be featured and honored. And we appreciate you both being here so very much. So Ellen is the mom of Ben Harper, the Grammy Award-winning musician, and she also runs the Folk Music Center, which her parents started in Southern California, 30 miles east of Los Angeles. So Ellen, I want to throw it over to you. Talk about your life, the genesis of this book, how you came to meet the wonderful Sam Barry, and more.
Well, that's a simple question. Let's see. I started writing stories. I've always written stuff, jotting things, notes, stories, anecdotes. And after my parents passed and I realized that my kids really didn't know much about the beginnings of the story, I started seriously writing stories about events and people. And so I had dozens and dozens of stories. And Mark Tauber became interested in them. He saw them and wanted me to thought, I guess short stories don't sell all that well, collections of short stories. And he thought it would be a great memoir, which I didn't really know how to turn stories into a memoir, and brought Sam on. And Sam came on, and we turned all this preservation of history and family and folk music and into a memoir.
It's beautiful. So a little bit about Sam Barry. I'm going to put us back on gallery mode so you can see the three of us. So Sam is a musician, an author, a harmonica player. He is just amazing. One of his books is called Write That Book Already, which he wrote with his wife, who has passed, Kathy Corman Goldmark. Sam, correct me. Tell me a little, tell our audience about you.
Sure. Yeah, I wrote then and How to Play the Harmonica and Other Life Lessons, and worked on a book. I edited and sort of created a book called Hard Listening, which is about the Rock Bottom Remainders, a band that I'm in that's stranger than strange. I am I've had a interesting life, and that included in that has been being a musician all my life, and playing harmonica and keyboards or piano would be, and writing and working in publishing, which has been wonderful. And I got the pleasure of Mark Tauber, working with Mark Tauber, who's the publisher now at Chronicle Books, a publisher at Chronicle Books, but we met when we both worked at HarperCollins. And Mark contacted me because of my dual background as a writer, editor, and musician, because he thought that was perfect for teaming up with Ellen, given her background and what we were writing about, given the musical element of that is the major thread running through Ellen's life. And that helped me a lot. And also Ellen and I share not just musical background, but even a genre of music, which is American folk music, and how it influenced rock and roll, and how it blues and folk sort of blend together, and country music. And so we had a lot in common, and I think we made a darn good team in the process of doing this.
So Sam, tell us a little bit more about the Rock Bottom Remainders. That's actually how I came to know you in 2012, when the Remainders, which is a book band that features Stephen King, your brother, Dave Barry, sorry,
yeah.
Amy Tan, and I did a little PR for you, and you guys were in Washington. And Roger McGuinn was playing with you when you played
Right.
there, which was amazing. I had the opportunity to go meet with him and his wife in Orlando, California. Roger McGuinn, of course, is one of the leaders, or the leader of the Byrds. And you guys have just been all around the world, practically all around the country for sure, performing. So tell us about the Rock Bottom Remainders.
So the Rock Bottom Remainders is a, when I play music, you're playing with musicians. And the interesting thing about the Rock Bottom Remainders is that in a lot of ways, I was playing with non-musicians. The band was the brainchild of my late wife, Kathy Kamen Goldmark. And she just had this, she knew all these authors from her work. And this is long enough ago that she faxed them all the question, what do you think about being in a band for a good cause at a major publishing convention? And to her surprise, they all said yes. And Amy Tan asked, when do we go shopping for clothes? And Stephen King is a member of that band, as you said, and neither of them are good musicians, although they do have music in them. And my brother Dave Barry, the humorist, is a good musician, and if he'd applied himself, no, I'm kidding. He did fine writing humor. And we have many other wonderful, Greg Iles as a member of the band, the novelist, and Roy Blunt Jr. In the original manifestation of the band, Barbara Kingsolver was the keyboard player. Mitch Albom is the keyboard player along with me since then. And I should explain, Scott Turow, Roy Blunt Jr., it's a big band, and there have been a lot of people involved, but we love doing it. It's sort of more like summer camp than it is really music, because it's a lot of the fun for us is just coming together, trying to remember what key the song is that we played the last time, since we never really rehearse. As you can probably tell, it's not about creating great music so much as it is about having fun and raising money for a good cause. Amy actually said about playing in this band, she said, "This is so much fun, I would do this to kill the whales." And we've had various mottos over the years, such as one of the best is 3 chord, the Rock Bottom Remainders, 3 chords and an attitude, because 3-chord songs are the simplest of songs. And we just raise money for a good cause. We've gone on tour all around the United States doing this. And I should explain about the ringer part, that Roger McGuinn, obviously is a great musician. And over the years, we had 3 ringers like that. Al Cooper was the first one. The second one was Warren Zevon. Most people probably remember for Werewolves of London, not his favorite song of his, but Where's Guns and Money would be, more the idea. But when my brother asked him if he needed any money to be in the band, Warren said, "Oh no, the only thing I'd ask is that if we ever do Werewolves of London, that Stephen King sing it." So that became the rule. You'd have Warren Zevon playing his own song with Stephen King singing it. And so you get the idea. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great band, and I've been honored to be a part of it. And we're still going. We'll see about post-pandemic. We were still playing right up till last year when we played in Minneapolis. Year before last when we played up in Minneapolis in the fall at a new book festival that they're holding up there. So that's a lot, but there you go. That's the Rock Bottom Remainders.
Well, I love it. I love it. And it's so exciting to know about some of the backstories. You guys actually are good. I've been to several of your concerts and I'm impressed. Roger McGuinn was sort of leading it. So maybe I was impressed by that, but I thought y'all did such a great job. And Ellen, you are an amazing musician. Talk about your music career and playing with Ben and making albums.
Well, I just started playing when I was pretty young, about 14. And my mother taught guitar forever, banjo, and just played for fun mostly. Everybody in my world played guitar, played music, sang. So it just seemed like the natural thing to do. And did a little performing when I was younger, and raised a family and set it aside for a bit and came back to it. And I've always, gosh, for the last, I don't know, 30 years, I had a little something, a band or a duet or something going on, and played. I And then Ben and I had decided, well, Ben invited me to do a concert, a song with him at a show, and we worked up a song. We did a song, we did a video, and then we did an album and went out on tour, and that's pretty much my musical career. I don't know. I play banjo, guitar, ukulele, sing, write.
And I love how absolutely humble you are. So
That-
I'm going to tell a little bit of this story, how I got to meet Ellen. So I was visiting Sam in Northern California on a trip. And I told him that I had gotten accepted to Claremont Graduate University's positive psychology program in Southern California. And he said, you know what? I'm writing a book with this woman who owns the folk music center there. And she's the mom of Ben Harper. And I'm like, oh my God. So when I got to Claremont, I walked into it. So Ellen, next I want you to talk about the folk music center because it's so magical. But I walk in, I introduce myself, and she took me under her wing. She took me out for coffee. Graduate school turned out to be at 55, like a bigger trip than I had expected. And Ellen was so supportive and wonderful. She has her PhD from Claremont in education, and she told me some of her miraculous stories. So I love how you see God's hand at work and how just miracles happen. So that was beautiful. So thank you both for taking such good care of me in that time of need. And so Ellen, now show us the folk music center. You're sitting in the back of it.
Yes, I'm sitting in the back. The folk music center is a lot of things. It's a store. It's also a museum, a nonprofit educational institution. And in the before times, before the pandemic, we had field trips, open mics, concert series. We have a festival, all kinds of things going on. But the store itself is divided into the main store, the gallery. There's teaching rooms, and then I'm in the back, which is the shop. And you can see there's a few kind of interesting instruments behind me, and then a mess on the other side. Well, the store was started. My mother, like I say, was a musician, had always played and sung. And my father, having lost his job on the East Coast, thank you to Joe McCarthy, we moved west, and he decided he didn't want to have a boss, and they started the Folk Music Center. And they just grew and grew. It opened in 1958, so it was a perfect time to be in folk music. And we had it just grew rapidly.
So amazing. So you talk about this in the book about the history and the stories, and actually Jackson Browne is quoted at the top. And in the introduction, I was so moved by what Ben wrote. Tell us a little bit about, so actually let me back up a minute. So you are a Jewish woman, as am I, and you married a Black man and had 3 beautiful Black boys that you raised in this very white community of Claremont. And you talk about it openly, and Ben talks about his experience there. Would you just kind of review that for us so that more folks can know about this amazing piece of your life?
Claremont, it's kind of a dual feeling here in Claremont. It is a very white town, still is. It's a college town. There's, I think, 7 colleges here. And so in some ways it was a very protected environment. It was very safe. And especially because everyone knew the family and knew the kids. But it also, it was interracial marriage just wasn't that common. When we married, I believe the government statistics said only 17% of the population approved of interracial marriage, which was up from 5% or 4%, I think, in 1955, but still not a lot of people. And so there were a lot of assumptions made, especially had to deal with this at school, an assumption that, well, they're Black, they're male, they must love team sports. they're Black, they're male, they're probably going to have reading. Let's set them up with extra reading and math tutorials. Let's, assumptions that I was perpetually at the school confronting. And, I just was undaunted by any argument that I received. And if I felt a teacher wasn't appropriately approaching their education, I wouldn't stand for it. They would get moved to a teacher that was a better match. And I'm sure they were really glad to see the see the backside of all of us once we left the Claremont school system.
Well, Ben talks about, I love this story. He talks about being so excited to go on a field trip and them not letting him on the bus, sort of, almost. So tell us that story.
Well, he tells it best, but he had an overdue library book, and they decided that he would be pulled from the field trip because he hadn't brought his library book back. And he went to the office and called me right away. I was there in a heartbeat, and I said, I want to look at the library records, because if there's any other kid who has an overdue book that's going on this field trip, I'm going to call the ACLU. So anyway, they just decided not to do that and to let him on the field trip.
It's amazing that you were so powerful and had the insight to do that. Like,
well,
talk about that.
Do what you got to do,
As a mom, yeah.
Mom, it's a single mom also.
Yes, single mom. Sam, pick out one of your favorite stories in the book and tell us about it.
Well, there are a lot of terrific stories in the book, and it ranges over really more greater period than we've touched on yet. It goes back to the times when Ellen and her family lived in New England, and stretches all the way up to not long ago. I think maybe I would pick a couple of short little stories. One that really moved me a great deal was, there's more to the story, but I'll just say the gist of it, which was that after Ellen's father was exposed, and I use that term very in a qualified way, as having been a communist, which means he had been a member of the party years before, and no longer was a member, and was upstanding citizen, raising a family, and school teacher. But because of the communist background in the McCarthy era, and the insanity of the McCarthy era, that meant he lost his job. And in many ways, Ellen and her sister, his mother, they all completely lost their community. And there's a story she tells about walking down the street and being, I don't remember right now the exact terminology, Ellen could help me, but where some boys are driving by and they throw a Coke bottle and hit her and scream, terms about being Jewish and communist at her. And I just can't, that moved me a great deal, because for a girl, for anyone to experience that is awful. For a girl without a lot of information about how the world works, to suddenly find she's considered a pariah and is being shunned and attacked, in this case, by the world, must have been so shocking. And I'm going to swing all the way to the other side of Ellen's life, or to more recent times, in other words, to a story that just popped into my head right now when you asked, and that is Ellen is backstage at the Neil Young's festival to raise money for the Bridge School, which used to be a big event here. And all these great stars would come and play music. But Ellen had a wonderful time playing there with herself and with Ben, but she's backstage and with her grandchild, and she realizes that Sir Paul McCartney is sitting over there, and they get into a charming talk and conversation, actually as two grandparents, really. And it's noticeable, I think Ellen notes, that her grandchild is, kind of willing to meet this man but wants to get back to playing a video game.
Mhm.
So I thought that was just a charming story about what it's like behind the scenes in the world of music.
Ellen, talk more about that. Tell us about that moment.
Well, let's see. Bridge School benefit, like Sam says, just brings wonderful musicians all together, different genres, different kinds, sorts of people. But I mean, he told the story pretty well. Just CJ was playing video games, and Paul came over, introduced himself, and said, "CJ, come over." And he's very polite. Hi, how do you do? But he's looking over, back at his game, and yeah, we agreed that there's competition for meeting anyone in a game.
So I love that you both know all these wonderful, very well-known people, but yet there's a humanness to it, right? So what the public persona is and then the private persona. Talk a little bit about, Jackson Browne coming into the folk music store, or just all these other folks, and what that was like for you as a young woman growing up, and what's your perspective on it now?
Well, the Folk Music Center, we've had famous people coming in forever. Leonard Cohen was here, not too far up on Mount Baldy, and he would come in, and Tom Waits come in, and also, I mean, all kinds of people come in. But really, the music store policy, I mean, is people come in to look, and they want to play, and they want to check all these, fantastic instruments, is to leave them alone and just let them be who they are and do what they do. My father was never impressed with celebrity anyway. So I remember when Taj Mahal came in, and he comes in, and he's just like 60s decked out, and comes in and wants to meet my father. He's heard about him, and says, "Oh, Mr. Chase, I'm Taj Mahal." And my father's like, "Taj who?" And it just didn't matter. I mean, you either loved music and instruments or whatever, plumbing, electricity. His interests were wide ranging, and you got as much attention no matter who you were.
And the center is just so magical. I mean, there are instruments everywhere, and you can touch them and play with them. And Ben talks about that freedom when he was little, that he wasn't scolded for, touching the instruments on the wall. Talk about how people come in and interact at the store.
Well, I think, I like to think that we have a very welcoming atmosphere. I've got a great support staff here, and really they have endless patience, and more than I do, actually, with people. And but people are allowed to touch and play. And I mean, it was established as that. In fact, I think it's in the mission statement of the museum, that it's a place you can touch and play instruments. And no one's going to tell you don't touch. And so people come in, and there's just spontaneous jam sessions, and at least there were. I mean, everything's been so different this past year. It's hard to even believe that we were doing fun stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, we have an open mic. People meet each other. They become bands. We've got one young woman who got her start here at an open mic. Phoebe Bridgers was nominated for a Grammy just in this last round. So there's a lot of support for young people, old people, everybody that wants to play music. And a lot of people they've been told they're not musical at some point in their young life, and that just gets you. It's part of who you are, your voice, and they come back to it as adults, and we get them playing and singing. The first 10 minutes that they're in a class, they realize that they can be musical.
Wow, that's amazing. I am one of those people who is not musical. Really, I'm not, but I appreciate the music. Talk about raising a Grammy. You have 3 amazing sons and grandchildren, but talk a little bit about Ben. And did you know when he was a little guy that he would grow up to be the musician that he is?
of course, I did not know what he would grow up to be. I didn't know what any of them would grow up to be. I remember, sometimes they got in some trouble at school. They're very outgoing, very social people. And so sometimes the socialization at school was more important than the schoolwork. So, there were those kinds of situations. But I remember I was told, there's no way a white woman can raise 3 Black male children on her own. Sent me to talk to a school psychologist, and he said, you just can't do it. They have to have a good Black male influence, or they're going to wind up on drugs or in prison or both. And I didn't mince my words with what I told him, what I thought about him. And actually, they have done none of the above. But how did I get to that? But no, I didn't know. And I didn't, I wanted them to find what their path was, I guess. I suppose I could have been more proactive about it. Ben had me, I could tell when I would sing a song, because I taught, and like I say, I played in bands, I would hear this little high harmony floating around the house. He might be playing with his, whatever, toys and games, but this, he would sing along. And they've all, actually all 3 of them have done very well. In fact, Sam, I don't know if you saw it, I had one of those proud mom moments. Joel's book, Frankie Finds the Blues, is being celebrated at the Motown Museum this month.
I did see that. Yeah, it's great. I did see that. Yes, that's great.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. And Peter, of course, is a teacher and a musician, and Ben, once he started playing and singing, it did not surprise me that he discovered very quickly. And he had the drive, he had the talent, he had the whatever it is that it takes to, and wrote very early his own songs. And so the success in music didn't surprise me. The celebrity is another kind of a thing, and that takes some getting used to, having a celebrity in the family. I don't know, you may know about that, Sam.
Yeah, talk about that, Sam.
Well, I think, I would first of all say that there's something of a difference between a celebrity author, and my celebrity author brother has said this, and somebody who's a rock star, which is probably, I don't know that Ben would call himself that term, but that's close enough, I think. And rock stars and movie stars and get a lot of attention. So do celebrity authors, but a celebrity author can walk through the airport of every major city except for maybe their own, and maybe a couple of people notice them. I think that once you become famous on this other level, this sort of rock star level, I think it can actually begin to invade your life. The best example of that for me is not so much Dave as it is Stephen, who crosses a line over from, of course, Stephen is really fundamentally an author. That's what he is, but that's what he loves. That's what he does. But I have witnessed events. I've literally had to be a bodyguard for Stephen King, and I'm not really trained to be a bodyguard, but grab a harmonica and play at people, chase them away. But no, but there's this almost insanity that develops around celebrity in the United States, and I think that's what Ellen is referring to, and it makes it almost impossible to lead a normal life or have a normal engagement with the public, not because everyone is that way, but enough people are kind of nuts about celebrity. So for all the fun of it, I guess I'd say, because it is a lot of fun. I don't want to act like it's some bad thing, but it is that element of it, I think, is what Ellen was referring to. Is there's a little insanity around how Americans approach their celebrities.
Well, fan does stand for fanatic, so that's what you get. Yeah, that and the need to get to celebrity somehow, and if a brother, a mother, his access to celebrity was something to learn to deal with. And there's an invasion of your life, like you say. You can be walking down the street and someone will run up to tell you about a dream they had about you, and weird things arrive from different people from all over the world. And I have a little place in our loft upstairs here that I call the stalker file. And those things wind up.
What's in there? What's in that vault?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That was that was the surprise. I mean, that's celebrities kind of are different by necessity. It's a circle. You're, the more famous you are, the more fans you have, and it just.
And he had celebrity marriage too in there.
Yeah.
This reminds me a little bit of the F. Scott Fitzgerald comment about the rich being different than us. Only it's the celebrities really that are different than us. And the other thing I think of is since we've given a lot of thought to the British royalty, is over there. That's, I think, the category we're talking about. But here it's. But mostly it's a lot of fun, and all these people that that you encounter in the world of the arts, and music, and literature, are really fascinating people, and it's more fun than it is anything else to be around and to be a part of this world.
Yeah.
Yes, it is fun. It is, and it's.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask. So now that you guys have written this book, what have you elevated? Do you think to you're going to have a stalker vault?
Oh, I don't think so. Like Sam was saying, there's something about rock star. It's like everybody's aspiration. There are, neurologists, famous neurologists, or attorneys, or hedge fund. And what they really want to do when they get money and they get some time is pick up a guitar and be a rock star. And we joke about all the bands that we see, and all the really fine, expensive guitars are bought by lawyers. They're not bought by the musicians, the people that and they do. They play the songs of their era and rock out. And it's like, is that all anybody really wants in life, Yeah.
That's so cool. You're tapping into that sort of that innate feeling that we have. And what do you think that is? What is it that to be a rock star? What do you think their fantasy is?
Oh, I guess to have a million people adore you. Millions, I guess. Sam, do you have a...
I actually have I think that sums it up very well. I think, but if you're a performer, it's a joy to perform, and you need an audience to perform. But I also would speak to another side of music that I think Ellen and I both have a lot of experience with, which is what most musicians are. People who play locally in bands and in nightclubs and bars and coffee houses. And some of whom slip over into the world of fame, and some back and forth between, but as what we used to call sidemen. I guess we should update that term. I've been a sideman, meaning you're playing alongside you're providing a role. You're a role player, and that side of music is just as joyful. And of course, in that moment, in that nightclub or that coffee house, you kind of are a star. But it's 50 people, not 5,000, and I suppose it's the same joy and same hunger. Musicians in general are. I think I'm with Ellen. I think everybody can be a musician, or everybody is musical. And if you like music, you're musical right there, just because you like it. And if you hum to yourself in the shower, you're musical. But musicians who really practice it and go out and perform it are a different breed. Not just the very famous ones, but the less famous ones. They're often a little bit eccentric, and they're often a little bit outlaw. There's a little bit of an outlaw quality to a lot of musicians, and maybe that's another thing that the lawyers envy is is that they could pick up a guitar and be an outlaw like that musician that they love at the local nightclub. And the funny thing about that is that unfortunately they aren't willing to pay as much money as we pay for lawyers. I would just point that out to say.
And they also have a better retirement than your average musician who's been out playing music their whole life. But playing music even at whatever level, in performing, and a lot of it for me is just the interaction, the musical interaction with the band. That's just, it gets in your blood. You just.
Actually, this gets back to an important element of the book, Always a Song, is about one of the characters in the book, Always a Song, is folk music, is the whole world of folk music and folk musicians that Ellen has been a central part of, and her family have been a central part of. And folk music tries to, in fact, resist the celebrity thing and stress rather the communal side of it. And that's what I love about folk music. Gospel music does that too. All of them have stars, but there's this desire to bring everybody into the musical world. Right, Ellen? Do you think I'm saying that right?
It's very, very well put. Yeah. It's like it's not the performer and the audience. The folk music encourages you to be both, I guess, and to be part of it.
So, for instance, when you do, actually, this can happen at Ben Harper. It can happen that's why I say that musicians, whether famous or locally famous or world famous, share this quality of wanting the audience to be part of it, wanting to bring people in. At least the musicians I like do. And there's a love in folk music of sing along or having a chorus that everybody can join in on. And I'm sure all of us and anybody listening to this right now has experienced the joy of just singing together. And in that moment, everybody's a star, which is what's so great about folk music.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, it's about family, it feels like. And this book is obviously about Ellen's beautiful family, and Sam, that you brought your family, yourself to it, brings everybody that you know and love into it, which is very cool, which is why it's magnificent. Everyone should buy Always a Song, Singers, Songwriters, Sinners and Saints, and it's available on Amazon. So my couple final questions to you both. I had the privilege of accompanying Sam when he was playing in Marin County. So Sam, where can folks come see you play?
Well, right now, nowhere. But I was talking to Monroe Grisman, who do you know Monroe, Ellen?
I don't think so. I think you've mentioned him to me. I think
Monroe is the son of David Grisman, who was in a band called Old in the Way, which was part of the bluegrass revival. Jerry Garcia was in that band. Pastor Clements. The Roman, it was that whole crew. And anyhow, I was at a birthday party with him just this past weekend, and we were social distancing. I don't know why I had to say that. Anyhow, we were talking about gigs, and it looks like it's really starting to open up this coming June. And so maybe sooner than that, I'll be playing. I live in Marin County in San Rafael, just north of San Francisco, where I've lived a lot of my life in this area. And I play here. A lot of people would know there's a musical scene in Fairfax and San Rafael here and in the surrounding area. And then down in the city, where I usually have played monthly at a great old place called El Rio for years and years with a great band. but I hope El Rio is opening up. You know, some of this is, we're talking about the pandemic, and I don't have the crystal ball, but I think I'll be playing at all those places again. Maybe by June, it looks like possibly we'll start. We'll see. I think it's feeling and looking good.
Yeah, that's great. So where can people find out where you might perform?
Well, they can find me on, probably the easiest thing to do is find me on Facebook, and I'm right on there as both as an author and as a musician, and so they're welcome to find me there. My page is there. Thanks.
And Ellen, how about you? Are you performing in Claremont?
I will be doing something on the 19th for one of the senior centers here at Pilgrim Place, a very progressive center. And I don't know, you know, we did that, Ben and I and a couple of staff members did the Newport Folk Festival sessions. Here we did a sort of pandemic rendition of the field trip that we put on for kids, and they filmed it, and it's up, I think it's up on their site, and that was kind of fun. So we've done some things like, you know, those virtual sort of things. We have started to book concerts in the fall. People seem to think that we may be able to have some indoor concerts, but you know, the summer would be great.
Yeah, that's great.
And you can, I think you probably can find out what's going on here or what I'm doing on the Folk Music Center Facebook page.
Yeah, and ellenharper.net also is a great resource where you can learn all about Always a Song, singer-songwriters, sinners and saints, my story of the folk music revival. And it definitely, if you're a lover of music at all, or American history, actually, to that point, this is a fantastic opportunity. So Sam, just a final word from you.
Well, I'm looking for, right now I'm writing a new book, and I can't tell you much about it because I'm right in the middle of writing it, but that's what I'm working on. And you mentioned the music, and I also love, you know, I will continue to do editorial work with great writers like Ellen. And so that's the lovely, happy life that I'm leading here. And I'm just waiting to get outdoors and hang out with people more than we are lately. And I look forward to seeing people in person. That's the one thing I really missed with this book release, was that we couldn't do bookstore or folk music center store events for Always a Song. That would have been a lot of fun, and I wish that had happened. And maybe it will still. Yeah,
I hope so. Ellen, how about you? What's cooking?
Well, I've got a few songs I've written. I'd love to get back in the studio. Talk about the most fun of all. So I'll probably be doing that whenever that can work. I like to have people there. I don't really enjoy the distance, you know, kind of recording. I don't know, I'm writing away too. We'll see what comes of it. Yeah, it's just one of those things you sort of do, right? I mean,
yes. I want to say that Ellen's tells a story in the book about being in the studio, that if you really want to experience what it feels like, it's a great section of the book.
Thank you.
Yeah, all of it. It's full of incredible history, and you do want to cry at many points in it. It's so poignant and honest, just as you both are. So Sam Barry, Ellen Harper, I can't thank you enough for being part of the Incandescent Radio show. You will both be, of course, as I said, the feature of the April issue of beincandescent.com, our health and wellness magazine that talks about the business of mind, body, spirit, soul, and heart. And I think that you both encompass all of those wonderful things. So best of luck, Always a Song. Buy this book, follow these fantastic people, and keep singing. All right.
Thank you, Har. Thanks for having us on your show.
My pleasure. I'll talk to you both soon.